Imagine walking outside tonight. You look up at the sky, expecting to see the moon, but instead, a gigantic Saturn fills the heavens. Its massive rings stretch from one horizon to the other. The night suddenly becomes brighter. People around the world stop and stare in disbelief. Phones begin recording. Scientists rush to their observatories. Social media explodes with one question: how is this possible? At first, it would seem beautiful, even magical. But beneath that breathtaking view, a disaster would already be unfolding. The oceans would begin to rise, the weather would start changing, and Earth's delicate balance could be pushed to its limits. So what would really happen? If Saturn replaced the moon? Let's find out. But before we see what happens to Earth, we need to understand just how enormous Saturn really is. At first, the idea sounds impossible. And in reality, it is. But that's exactly what makes this thought experiment so fascinating. Saturn isn't just another planet. It's the second largest planet in our solar system, a giant made mostly of hydrogen and helium. With a diameter of nearly 120,000 kilometers, Saturn is almost 35 times wider than the Moon. More than 760 Earths could fit inside Saturn by volume. Yet despite its enormous size, Saturn is surprisingly light for a giant planet. Its average density is so low that if there were an ocean large enough, Saturn would actually float. But don't let that fool you. Its mass is still about 95 times greater than Earth's. Its gravity shapes dozens of moons, creates one of the most spectacular ring systems in the solar system, and influences everything around it. Now imagine that this enormous world suddenly appeared where our moon is today. The night sky would become breathtaking. Saturn would dominate the heavens, its rings stretching from one horizon to the other. It would become the largest object ever seen in Earth's sky. Beautiful, yet terrifying. Because the moment Saturn arrived, its gravity would begin changing our planet forever, and the very first signs of disaster would appear in Earth's oceans. The moment Saturn replaced the moon, Earth would feel its presence, not through the sky, but through the oceans. The moon's gravity controls the tides we experience every single day. Twice daily, billions of tons of seawater rise and fall in a delicate rhythm. Now imagine replacing the moon with a planet almost 95 times more massive than Earth. If Saturn somehow appeared at the moon's distance, its gravitational pull would be unimaginably powerful. Within hours, the oceans would begin behaving in ways never seen before. Tides wouldn't rise by a few meters. They could surge hundreds of meters high. Entire coastlines would disappear beneath walls of water. Mega tsunamis would race across the oceans. Cities like New York, Tokyo, London, Mumbai, Shanghai, and Sydney would all face catastrophic flooding. Harbors would vanish, ports would be destroyed, entire islands could disappear beneath the sea, ships would be tossed around like toys, powerful currents would reshape the oceans. The familiar coastlines we've known for thousands of years would no longer exist. But the oceans weren't the only things responding to Saturn's immense gravity. The solid Earth itself would begin to bend, and that would unleash an even greater disaster. The oceans weren't the only victims of Saturn's immense gravity. The solid Earth would also begin to feel the strain. Although our planet appears rigid, it constantly flexes. This is known as Earth tides. Right now, the ground rises and falls by only a few centimeters every day. We never notice it, but replace the moon with Saturn, and those tiny movements would become enormous. The Earth's crust would begin bending under the overwhelming gravitational force. Deep underground, ancient fault lines would awaken. Powerful earthquakes would strike across every continent. Some would be stronger than anything recorded in human history. Entire cities could shake for several minutes. Roads would split apart. Bridges would collapse. Skyscrapers would sway violently. Underground pipelines would burst. Power stations would fail. Then, the volcanoes would awaken. Magma chambers that had remained stable for thousands of years would become unstable. One eruption would trigger another. Ash clouds would rise high into the atmosphere. Rivers of lava would consume everything in their path, from Iceland to Indonesia, from Italy to the west coast of the Americas. The ring of fire would erupt with unimaginable force. The ground itself would no longer feel safe. Every continent would be changing shape. But Saturn wasn't finished. Its gravity would continue pulling on Earth, slowly changing the way our planet spins, and that could transform every day of our lives. By now, Earth would no longer resemble the planet we once knew. The oceans had risen, the ground had cracked, volcanoes had awakened. But Saturn's influence was only growing stronger. The moon doesn't just create tides. Over billions of years, it has helped stabilize Earth's rotation and the tilt of our planet. That stability is why we enjoy predictable seasons. Replace the moon with Saturn, and that balance could be completely disrupted. Earth's rotation might gradually begin to change. Days could become slightly longer, as Saturn's enormous tidal forces slowly drained Earth's rotational energy. Even a small change in the length of a day would affect weather patterns around the world. The atmosphere would have more time to heat up during the day and cool down during the night. Jet streams could shift. Storm tracks might move into entirely new regions. Some countries would experience years of relentless drought. Others could face almost constant rainfall. The changing tilt of Earth could make the seasons far more extreme. Summers might become hotter than ever before. Winters could grow longer and far colder. Regions that once produced abundant crops could become barren landscapes. Areas that were frozen could begin supporting wildlife. Maps of the world would need to be redrawn, not because continents had moved, but because climates had. Human civilization has always depended on Earth's stability. Without it, every generation would face a new and unpredictable world. And yet, the greatest danger still hadn't arrived, because Saturn's gravity wasn't only affecting Earth, it was also beginning to reshape the entire solar system. By now, Earth would be fighting to survive, but Saturn replacing the moon wouldn't just threaten our planet, it could destabilize the entire solar system. Saturn is a giant planet. Its gravity would constantly tug on Earth, the Sun, and even other planets. Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Jupiter would all experience tiny changes in their orbits. At first, those changes might seem insignificant, but over years, decade, or centuries, small disturbances build. Astronomers call this orbital perturbation. Even a slight shift in a planet's orbit can dramatically alter its climate. Earth might slowly drift closer to the Sun, making temperatures even hotter, or move farther away, beginning a new ice age. No one could predict exactly how the solar system would evolve. It would become a giant gravitational puzzle. Meanwhile, Saturn's magnificent rings would dominate Earth's sky. Breathtaking, perhaps the most beautiful sight in history. Yet every glance upward would remind us of the danger hanging over our world. Because beauty doesn't always mean safety. Fortunately, this scenario will never happen. Saturn follows a stable orbit 1.4 billion kilometers from the Sun. It remains almost 1.2 billion kilometers away from Earth. There is no process capable of placing Saturn where the Moon is today. This has been a scientific thought experiment to help us appreciate just how perfectly balanced our solar system truly is. Sometimes, the smallest changes can have the biggest consequences. So, could Saturn really replace the Moon? The scientific answer is no, at least not naturally. Saturn is nearly 95 times more massive than Earth, and over 2,500 times more massive than the Moon. If a planet that enormous suddenly appeared at the Moon's distance, its gravity wouldn't simply create larger tides, it would fundamentally reshape Earth. The oceans would rise beyond anything in recorded history. Earth's crust would bend. Earthquakes and volcanic activity would increase. The planet's rotation and climate could become unstable, and over time, life as we know it might no longer be possible. Fortunately, nature has already solved this problem. Our Moon is almost the perfect companion for Earth. It is large enough to stabilize our planet's tilt, strong enough to create healthy ocean tides, yet small enough that it doesn't overwhelm Earth with gravity. For billions of years, This delicate partnership has helped create the stable environment that allowed life to evolve. Without the Moon, Earth would be a very different world. With Saturn instead, it could become almost unrecognizable. This journey reminds us that our solar system is not random. Every planet, every moon, every orbit exists in an extraordinary balance. The universe is filled with breathtaking worlds. But sometimes, the greatest miracle is the one we already call home. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like, subscribe to Future Pulse, and turn on notifications. Until next time, keep looking up. Because the universe always has another mystery waiting to be explored.